Welcome back to Black and Classic Podcast. I'm your host, Brittany Monet, where we talk all things politics and pop culture. Now, for today's episode, let me tell you guys, I don't know how long we're going to be here, but I know I had to come in and sit down and talk to you guys about this big, beautiful bill. I Really, honestly, I'm not even gonna lie to you. Most of this episode is gonna be dedicated to discussing that. So we're not gonna have too many topics. There's a few things that I want to discuss in local news, but after that, we're jumping straight in to the big beautiful bill. I did my research as always, so we're gonna get to it. Now, first up, in local news, I actually found out about this case because I follow, I believe the channel is Law and Crime on YouTube. So if you are not familiar, if you're not a true crime junkie like myself, then you probably have no idea what this page is. But basically, this page is, I don't know if they send reporters out, they send journalists out, lawyers, attorneys, whoever, they send people out across literally the country and they focus on trials that are happening or they stream in live to different trials. So I saw this trial, and as it was happening, they were posting a lot of updates. And then when I clicked into one of the live videos, I realized, oh, this is happening in Connecticut. So of course now I'm super interested and I'm hooked, right? So what happened is there was a teenage boy at the time, I believe he was 16. This happened in 2022 where he was accused, well, his name is Raul Valley, and he was accused of stabbing one of his classmates or like a boy. It might have even been from a different school, but they were attending parties and a fight happened at one place and then it carried over into another place, and Raul Valley stabbed James McGrath and injured three others in this like all out brawl and all out fight. Now, as I was following this case, I found it so interesting because it at first my gut was telling me it felt like this was a 16-year-old kid who went into a mode of like self-defense. Like it's very much different from the situation in Texas with Carmelo Anthony and Austin a calf. It's very much different than that to me because Carmelo had, I was trying to think of the names. Carmelo had the opportunity to just simply walk away, right? Although Raul did drive to the second party, I think it was more of that teenage angst of like, oh, well, I don't care. Like, I'm still big, bad, and tough and things like that. But when these boys came out, because it was a group of them, remember, if one was fatally stabbed and three others were injured, it was a group of them that went down to confront Raul. And so I think it was just they got carried away. They wanted to fight. They were also drunk. Again, you have 16 and 17-year-olds drunk driving around. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was either, I think they were saying Fairfield County. So I don't think they said the actual town, but they did say it was like Fairfield County, and Fairfield is also a town. So it could have been Fairfield itself. But they were, they were just drunk and just bouncing around to different house parties. And unfortunately, they got into this brawl. Someone there had a knife and handed it to Raul. And Raul did take the stand. And I feel like it was important for him. Usually, I'm always against someone like the accused taking a stand because it always gives guilty. But I think it was important in this circumstance for him to take the stand because it spoke to his state of mind at 16, being drunk, and it's turning into this brawl. Someone hands you a knife, and his thing, he said he felt hopeless, scared, and terrified. And so I was like, this gives self-defense. Like, it just, I know it's not the best case scenario because you're like, well, he drove back to the party, but he could have drove back to just feel like, now I got my friends and you got your friends, and we could just beat up on each other, be drunk, be idiots, and move on about our day. I think the problem is when you have someone who wasn't Raul enter in a weapon, right? Enter in a knife, enter in a gun, enter in something that is much more harmful than just your two fists, So with that being said, the defense was looking to acquit Raul, and saying basically like he didn't intentionally go into this. If I believe correctly, they were looking for first degree murder, but because he drove back, but they were like, he didn't go into this intentionally seeking to kill James, right? He didn't do that. And I felt that way as well. But I said, I didn't hear the entire case. I kind of jumped in right when they were interviewing a lot of the kids who had been present. And so, and hearing their testimony and also hearing just how nervous they sounded and just how I think scared they sounded in the moment, it kind of felt like no one knew it was going to go that far. And everyone was just scared, you know? So that was very interesting. And as I was, doing my research, I did miss a week. Raul was then found, the jury did find him not guilty. And people obviously were very upset. And I don't know what group of people felt like myself. And it was just like, this feels a little bit like self-defense. Like if it was a one-on-one thing and he pulled out a knife and he just started stabbing the kid, I say, well, that doesn't give, because again, you have the ability to walk away. You have the ability to try to, say, I'm done, stop, whatever. But when it's groups of boys, everyone's drunk, and then they couldn't, and listening to the testimonies, a lot of them couldn't say who was near them or who was walking with them or who was doing what. It was just like, yeah, we were just going down and I knew some people were going with me, but I didn't know who. And it was like, okay, it just sounds like a super chaotic scene, a very, very unfortunate scene because a weapon was pulled out. A lot of people didn't, like a lot of the kids, I should say, knew that people were stabbed and hurt, but it wasn't until like the next day that they sobered up that they realized, oh wait, this was actually way worse than we thought. So I felt so bad about this case because it's like, these are the things that happen and why they say, you need to monitor kids drinking and underage drinking because they make dumb decisions. They get in cars and they want to drive really fast. They get into fights or they, do things where, oh, let's go swimming. And now you're drowning because you felt something, touch your foot and you're freaking out. Like all these different things happen. And that's why it's so important for parents really to monitor, right? Because you feel like, oh, he's going down to, Mr. Grant's house. And I know Mr. Grant is really responsible. So sure, go ahead. But what you don't know is Mr. Grant has been out of the country for a month. And now these kids have free reign in this home. They got a wine cellar. They got a full, bar, and they're just having the time of their life. Like, it's a thing. I don't know if it's every community, but in the Black community, right? We know I need to talk to their parent. I need to know their parent. Actually, I don't know their parent. Actually, I am very familiar with their parent. No, you cannot go to the house. They can come here, but you can't go there. Like, we are very familiar with that. And it helped to, parents who did have those type of rules, it helped to mitigate situations like this. It helped to make sure that you weren't in situations like this. It helped a lot of things growing up and you don't realize it until you're an adult and you're like, oh, that's why I shouldn't have went to everybody's house. That's why my mom said, that person can come to my house, but I couldn't go to their house because their parents were actually crackheads. Like, you know what I mean? Like their parents were on drugs. Their mom was a super like raging alcoholic. Like all of those different things your parent may know, but you aren't familiar with. And you're like, oh, they're just being mean. No, they're not being mean. They're trying to protect you from things like this. Like, yes, you can go to the party, but I'm picking you up at 11. You know what? You got attitude, it's 10:30. Like, like those type of things. It sucks when you're young, but it is protection. And it is protection from things like this. So I just wanted to speak on that because I found it to be very interesting. And I did understand the jury saying not guilty because I feel like the charges were too harsh. Like if they would have went for like a manslaughter or something like that, I think he would have been found guilty because that's much more plausible and it leaves less room for a reasonable doubt to say, 100% he went and intentionally committed this murder. Manslaughter could have been something, much different, or in any other charge. I don't think it would have satisfied the family of the victim, of course not, but at least in those moments you get justice. That's why a lot of times families will say, okay, we'll plead out, and like we agree to pleading out because the what we interpret and what we feel is not what the jury is going to feel or the evidence that they're going to be presented. So we shouldn't hold on to our emotions and not get some form of justice, as opposed to going to trial and getting no justice, because it's severe. And when you hear a lot of the facts and a lot of testimonies, it's hard, very hard to agree. Now, next up, I just quickly wanted to discuss, so there are new laws in Connecticut that address childcare, electricity bills, and the election security. What I found interesting is that they're going to increase this fund to help pay for workers over the next 2 years in childcare. So that's like daycares and things like that. And they're hoping that by increasing it over the next 2 years, it'll continue to see growth. And then also it'll be able to offer childcare at no cost to families that make less than 100,000, which I don't know what type of funding that is, but like the thing that gets me is that like I actually seen it on TikTok the other day where a woman was explaining, how much she has to pay in New York for daycare. And then she was saying, but that's without, I forgot what she was saying, but basically that's without like government benefits. Or she was saying that's before government benefits or whatever. And I'm like, and people, I had the same thought though, but people in the comments were saying like, okay, girl, but you had one and knew it was hard. And then you had two and knew, how expensive it was. And somehow you got up to four. And I think she was also pregnant at the time. And she was like, well, oh, no, she had just had the baby, because she was saying, like, this is the rate for, I think she had a toddler and like an infant, not like a super infant, but maybe like 3 or 4 months, something like that, y'all. But she was complaining about how expensive it was. And it was like, baby girl, you knew that when you had the first one. And a smart person would think, okay, if this is the rate for one, at any point, these rates are going to go up. I already see the list of what it is, because it's not like they give you like, oh, you have one child, so we only show you the table for one. No, they're showing you a table for 1, 2, 3. Like you can see how it increases. So as inflation happens, right, as the world sees increases across the board, you can only anticipate, right, that the daycare cost is going to go up. So to continuously have kids and not have the financial stability to support them is just beyond me. Like, it's just beyond me. And so I totally understand wanting to provide childcare at no cost to families under 100,000. But babe, that's going to be a lot. Like, you are going to need a lot of money. And I just don't see how that's going to happen by 2027. But who am I? Especially, again, Governor Ned Lamont, if you are not trying to tax the rich. I don't see how it's going to happen. But who am I? Now, next up, they said Eversource saw a temporary hike due to the Millstone power plant and unpaid COVID bills. What I found interesting is that they're basically like, yeah, the unpaid COVID bills is the reason why Eversource went up. Child, COVID was almost 6 years ago. Y'all need to cut it out. I am so over every time things go up. Oh, but remember COVID, baby, it was 6 years ago. Why ain't you still recoup your money back yet? I'm so confused. But whatever, because now this new relief is going to this new bill is going to add relief by saving an estimated $250 million. I want to see how they're going to do it, but who am I? Lastly, lawmakers also empowered police to crack down on street takeovers and destroy seized vehicles after 30 days, which I found kind of like, I get it, but then also it's like, I guess it would be annoying more so for the people who have these seized vehicles, because One, maybe you can't afford, the insurance on the car, or you can't afford the payments and all these different things. Now they're going to, get rid of your vehicle. Some vehicles are junk and they're just left places, all these different things. And I do believe they should crack down on these street takeovers. Granted, I don't know where they happening like crazy. It gives me the feel that they are treating it like it's like a LA thing where it's all the time and it's every other weekend or something like that. Like, I don't know it happening that much to them need to crack down. What they need to crack down on, I don't know how that law works, but they need to crack down on are the young kids who are breaking into cars, stealing things out of cars, stealing cars, getting caught, but then their parents are being called to pick them up because they're a minor. No, absolutely not. Go ahead and prosecute both of them, okay? Because we ain't got the time. We don't care about these street takeovers because half the time it be at night, ain't nobody outside anyway. Child, let them do their thing. You know what I'm saying? If they start doing illegal activity, shooting, killing each other, then go ahead and go down there because obviously now we're talking about crime. If they want to spin around, do donuts, let them spin around, do donuts. Child, that ain't bother nobody. But what is bothering people is when people wake up on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday morning, they go out and their car broken into, they Cadillac converter stolen, their whole car stolen. Then you say, oh, we're going to look for him. It turns out to be a 14-year-old boy. Now you calling the parents to just come pick them up, and then they go back and do it the same thing next week. It's crazy. That is something you should crack down on, not these street takeovers. Let's focus on something that is actually affecting people. Hello. Now, with that being said, we got that out the way. Let's get into this big, beautiful bill. One big, beautiful bill, whatever the name is. Now, I wanted to really take a strong deep dive into this. When I pulled it up, it was 870 pages. If I am not mistaken, this has been passed and approved. Last I heard, it was supposed to be sitting with the House, but it was like a guaranteed shoo-in. So I'm operating under the assumption that it has been. I haven't seen anything come out to say it wasn't passed. So I'm operating under the assumption that it was. As I was doing my research, I did see a lot of some of the amendments, right, going through. So I was able to confirm that, yes, some of these amendments have been changed. Therefore, again, it further solidifies my assumption that this has been passed. Okay. So I wanted to take a look at this because here's the thing. There is a term. Now, I don't know if this is a new term. I know it's a term going on, and I like the term, but it can get to a point where things start to be overused, right? We had overstimulated, narcissist, feminist, a lot of high value. We all know the terms on the internet that get overused. But this one here, I think it's appropriate. And yeah, the term fear mongering. Each side, left and right, they love to fearmonger. What is fearmongering? Fearmongering is basically attacking people's fear to like kind of heighten their sensitivity around something, to drive them to feel a way about something based on fear, not based in facts, right? So in doing that, they're looking to cause people to panic, right? To freak out, to overreact. And it's not based on anything factual. It's simply based on them telling you what they think they know without doing their due diligence. And why that bothers me so is because a lot of times if we read things and we pick it apart, you'll be like, oh, wait, that's what they wanted me to freak out about. That's what they wanted me to be upset about and up in arms about. I'm actually really confused. So I wanted to do my due diligence. Now, like I said, this document, this big, beautiful bill is 100. When I pulled it up, it was 170 pages. Absolutely not. I'm not printing out 870 pages. So what I did was I went through and I printed out. I don't have everything in front of me. To be quite honest, these are just the sections I've gotten through so far. But I did go through, so there will be a follow-up to this, but I did go through and print out the sections that seem to be talked about the most, right? Medicaid, SNAP benefits, what else did we, taxes and all these different things, right? So I printed out those sections and I said, I'm going to go through and I'm going to read this and I'm going to find what was changed, what was added, what was deleted, what was modified, what was enhanced, what was extended. Yep, those are all the words in the bill. I wanted to go out and do my due diligence and report back to y'all, because what I'm never going to do is sit down and start doing the same thing that I see other people doing, fear mongering. Trump passed this bill. Our lives are over. We need to leave this country. That is it. This is death. We're back to slavery. I'm never going to sit down and do that. I'm never going to sit down and do that, simply because that is dangerous. That is dangerous rhetoric to get in front of people and tell them that their lives are over, their lives are done. This is the end. The end of the world is near, and all these different things. I'm not doing that. What I will do though is do the work and find out the facts. So let's get into the facts, okay? First up, I started with the modifications to SNAP work requirements for able-bodied adults right out the bat, okay? So what they did do is they increased the age. So to qualify for this, they increased the age from 50, no, so it was 50 and they increased it to 65 years. They also added that, if you have a dependent child, they need to be under the age of 14. So over 14, if you're looking for SNAP benefits, that won't be a qualifier, okay? And I think they did that because in a lot of places, those kids can potentially find work. And that would just be my rationale and my understanding. So that was the first one. Under the waiver section, they changed the language to limit those who can be waived. Now, in this section, they basically added 2 paragraphs about Indian or urban Indian and California Indian being included as well. They also changed language to say that, you can have the SNAP benefits waived if you're in a non-contiguous state and have unemployment rate that is or at above 1.5 times the national unemployment rate. In a non-contiguous state, again, I had to go out. What does this mean? Told you guys I'm going to be looking up definitions. I'm not going to lie. Didn't know what non-contiguous state meant. It basically means you're a state that your borders don't touch any other state, Alaska and Hawaii. So that's literally just referring to Alaska, Hawaii. And that's it. Everything else quite literally stayed the same. So this came from the Section 6.0 of the Food and Nutrition Act of 2008. And quite literally, those were the only changes, okay? You can see here, I highlighted, I hope you can see, I underlined where things were changed, okay? I'm not here to bullshit y'all, okay? That was it, because I don't want to be the person that reports to y'all like, yes, the world is ending, everything is over, that's it, it's done. And you don't go and look up what actually changed. What benefit did you actually lose? So far, to be honest, there's one section that gets a little crazy. I will not lie. But other than that, much of it did not change. Much of these things, I will say, a lot of the things that the changes so far from literally reading a lot of the issues that have been raised, because I printed out a lot, right? I printed out sections about farming. I printed out sections about tips. I printed out a lot of sections, but as I'm reading it, I'm like, to the mass, especially like the mass, like Black community, baby, it's not relevant. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. It's not relevant. Okay. So I wanted to stick to finding the super, super relevant parts. So far with SNAP, those were only the relevant parts. Now we're moving over to a section titled National Education and Obesity Prevention Grant Program. First up, the first change was to the language to end the federal funding for the Food and Nutrition Act of 2008. Now, what did I go do? I went up to look at what type of programs these are. When I went to look at these programs, the first program I see was for the state of Connecticut, and it was basically like a nutrition, and literally what the act says, it was a nutrition and obesity program where they taught people how to eat right, and something called like myplate.gov. I guess it was probably like, usually growing up in my generation, we had the like pyramid, and it would tell you like, oh, this food group and this food group and this food group. Now I believe it's the My Plate, and it's almost like a portion control, and it tells you like, oh, you'll need this many greens, and you'll need this type of meat, and you'll need this, you know what I mean? So I think that's what My Plate is. This is saying it's going to end that funding. And okay, like I don't see where that'll be like earth shattering, besides the people who work with these grants, or who, you'll have a whole like program, or a nonprofit, that's the word I'm looking for, a nonprofit based under this grant. And now because this grant is ending, you have to either find funding from like a private company or somewhere else, and or that's it. You know what I mean? Like it's over. And although it's sad, let me tell you something. These programs weren't ending obesity. Let's be honest. Those programs are not ending obesity in America. So I don't see where it needs to be too much of a fight, because, babes, obesity was still going to be here. Let's be honest. Okay. It's a McDonald's almost on every corner. Okay. They coming out with all kind of collaborations. I just seen on TikTok a collaboration with pork rinds. If you don't know, that's like a chicharron, like fried fat but the flavor was birthday cake. So now you going to tell me I'm gonna get a pork rind and chicharron and the flavor is birthday cake? I'm telling you, they be playing on y'all intelligence. You can't go nowhere in the world and get the bullshit you could get in America. I promise you. I remember I was at Stu Leonard's, which is like a grocery store. They sell meats and all sorts of stuff. And when I was checking out, it was Starburst Oreos. In what world would I want to eat a Starburst? I mean, it's not Starburst. Help me. Sour Patch Kids. Yes, Sour Patch Kids. In what world would I want to eat a Sour Patch Kid Oreo? All I'm telling you is ending this funding is not going to stop obesity in America. I promise you. Myplate.gov or whatever the site is, it was never working. It was never working, okay? What you should work is, what was it? Make America Healthy Again with, what's old dude name? The Kennedy. You know what I'm talking about, RFK. With him, yeah. Now listen, with that being said, there were other changes, right? So we had changes in the Alien SNAP benefits. What that did was it added additional language as to what is considered a citizen. So it said a citizen or a national of the United States. It also did delete multiple sections, but the sections that it deleted, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, it didn't say anything. Like, again, it's not affecting the masses. It was like, it almost felt like it was applicable when this act went into a place, but now it's no longer applicable. So let's do a cleanup and let's just get rid of this section, because I didn't see who it was really going to affect. Okay. The next sections, this is where it got interesting. It got interesting because we are coming off the hills of the Israel and Iran situation where, we don't want Iran to have any nuclear weapons and yada, yada, yada. And, we're having these discussions so they're not using their weapons and all of these things, right? And then also we understand that Trump ran on an, anti-war campaign of like, he's stopping the war, no war in Ukraine, no war with, the Palestine, like we are stopping it, we're ending it, right? That was his thing. So to come across this section that is heavy. Okay, it starts at, actually this might not be the end of it, but I think it is. It started at page 97 of the bill, and it ends on page 133. I'm pretty sure that is the end of it. Okay, I got the full section because the title itself, where it says Committee on Armed Forces, Enhancement of Department of Defense Resources for Improving the Quality of Life for Military Personnel, I said, oh yeah, let's get into the military. Okay, so first up, the first enhancement was that they were enhancing $1 billion until September 30th of 2029. And what it says is any money in the Treasury not otherwise appropriated to remain available until September 30th. And that was an increase of $1 million. Now, what I will say is that I went through and I highlighted all of the areas of this section where their focus is on increasing something over $1 billion, right? They also changed some language regarding, instead of it saying the secretary, I think it says secretary concerned. So now at this point, it's just not simply, it's just not simply one person. I think it said Secretary of the Navy, and now it's like Secretary Concerned. So that almost gave like anyone can be designated as Secretary Concerned, because if you know the person that can make this call or make these changes is Secretary of the Navy, and you change it to Secretary Concerned, now it sounds like anybody could be classified as Secretary Concerned, right? So that was quite interesting. And I think it was quite interesting because, listen, I'm not in these rooms, I'm not a part of these discussions, but in my little understanding, I do believe, certain people get around the table and they discuss what are the options. And if you disagree with someone, you can just say, well, I designate this person as Secretary Concerned because they're going along with my ideas. They want to do what I want to do. And now they're going to agree and we can move forward as such. But if you have a specific title, there's no wiggle room, right? Like that is the person that has to. And if that person disagrees with me, then the buck stops here, as opposed to changing it. I don't know. When I read it and I read how it was before, that is literally what it gave me. But moving on. So the next section is the next few sections are just different enhancements. It's just simply enhancements. And it's hilarious to me because these are over $1 billion investments, not to mention the actual like $1 billion specific enhancements, right? But we're talking about 750 million, 50 million, 25 million, 810 million, right? All these different enhancements. I'm sorry, y'all. My sinuses be killing me. And it like, this is a side note, right? It's hot. It's muggy. So I need the AC. But the AC irritates my sinuses so bad. So like, it's either like I be hot and suffer, or I put the AC on and suffer with my sinuses. I don't know. So both ways kill me, but bear with me. So anyways, they have these, this is a whole nother one I missed right here. $1 billion things, right? So for this one, we got 1.8 billion for the procurement of landing ship medium. Trust me, y'all, I don't know nothing about what these things is. I just wanted to read them to you because we're discussing, now that's a place where I think it does hurt us, right? Hurt the masses. You're talking about cutting all these federal programs and cutting departments, which he's already done, and firing federal agents and all of that, like cleanup of bureaucracy, only to then enhance the literally, I feel like the largest part of this is enhancing the military section and the armed forces section, right? So it's like you cut that money to then enhance the funding for the military, but you're also telling us that you're anti-war. It doesn't make too much sense, okay? So then we have 2.7 million for the procurement of a TAO oiler, which I did Google. It's a fleet replenishment oiler. So if someone's all the way out, this fleet basically goes around and gives them fuel. We have 1.4 billion for the implementation of a multi-ship amphibious warship contract. When I did look that up, they previously in September of 2024 got 9.5 billion. So why do you need another 1.4? I don't know. And then you have to ask yourself, where is this money coming from? Okay. We got 1.5 billion for the expansion of small unarmed surface vessel production. I'm reading from the side, which is not helping. 2.1 billion for the development, procurement, and integration of purpose-built medium unmanned surface vessels. 1.3 for the expansion of unmanned underwater vehicle production. Let's just go through, right? Because it's a part I want to get to, but I need you to understand how many billions they just throwing around. 2 billion for air moving target indicator military satellites. 5.6 billion for the development of space-based and boost phase intercept capabilities. Let me just bring it to my face, right? I already can't see, y'all. 7.2 billion for the development, procurement, and integration of military space-based sensors. 2.5 for the development, procurement, and integration of military missiles defense capabilities. 2.2 billion for the acceleration of hypersonic defense systems. 1.9 billion for improved ground-based missile defense radars. And trust me, every single section that's not highlighted is simply just another thing, right? Like this one says 800 million for accelerated development and deployment of next generation intercontinental ballistic missile defense systems. It was a lot, right? Like it's a lot of money. I didn't total it up because it's pages of just an increase. But what I did focus on, which was astounding to me, was the amount of billions we were just throwing around. So these are all like 225 million, 50 million, 325 million. Like it's just insane. Let's see. 1 million for the expansion of the one-way attack unmanned aerial systems industrial base. 1 million for the creation of the next generation automated what is that? I don't know, y'all. Bear with me. Production factories. 2 million for additional activities to improve the United States stockpile of critical minerals through the National Defense Stockpile. Blah 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 blah. Y'all, it gets crazy. But let me get to the section I really want to get to. So we're gonna skip ahead. Hold on, because all I'm doing is literally just highlighting the billions. But there was a part that I was like, hold up now. Here we go. This is page 123 of the Big Beautiful Bill under Title II, Committee on Armed Forces. Okay, so we have under this, right, again, page 123, section 2008, enhancement of resources for nuclear forces. Now, let me tell you, when I read that, I said enhancements for nuclear forces. Excuse me? Can someone tell me why we need to enhance that if we already was about to go to war because another place was doing the same thing, but we wanted to go to war with them? Cool. All right, let's get into what they want to fund first of all, okay? We got 2.5 billion for risk reduction activities for the Centennial Intercontinental Ballistic Missile Program. 4.5 billion only for the expansion of production capacity of B-12 long-range bomber aircraft and the purchase of aircraft only available through the expansion of production capacity. All of that got increased, right? Okay, 2 billion to accelerate the development, procurement, and integration of the nuclear-armed sea-launched cruise missile. Okay, 65 million to accelerate the modernization of nuclear command, control, and communications. Okay, 150 million to accelerate the development. I don't know why I want to say deployment. The development, procurement, and integration of military nuclear weapons delivery programs. Okay. 1 billion to accelerate the construction of National Nuclear Security Administration facilities pursuant to Section 3211 of the National Nuclear Security Administration Act. All I'm saying is I thought this is what we didn't want, right? We wanted to make sure people weren't building nuclear weapons. But somehow we then in turn enhanced our programs about nuclear weapons. So is it one mic or is it Uchiwali? We need to decide, Trump. We need to decide. Because if I'm reading right, and I think my comprehension skills are pretty good, you're enhancing. Okay. Let me get to this one right here, because this one right here really threw me. 115 million for accelerating nuclear national security missions through artificial intelligence. Anytime I see AI in something, alarm bells are going off, babe. Alarm bells are going off. Because what you mean? What do you mean accelerating nuclear national security missions through artificial intelligence? I can't even begin to comprehend what that means. I comprehend the words, but in practice, what does that look like? What does that actually look like? And then it switches. We're out of the nuclear business. We do have 100 million for offensive cyber operations. Like, I just truthfully, just for a second, because let me tell you, I went through, I'm telling you, and I highlighted all the billions. I just really want to sit us between pages 123 and 126, okay? I feel like I'm telling you, open your Bibles with me, okay? And let's head on over to these sections, because we spent so long, okay, discussing anti-war campaigns and, we don't want nuclear bombs and this and that and that and this. But somehow we're going to enhance budgets for nuclear weapons. Babe, that is so bizarre to me. It's so bizarre to me because I just thought that's what we didn't want. And somehow it's what you're doing. And I think this is people's thing about those who are like, well, you voted for Trump, so this is what you get. You voted for Trump, this is what you get. Oh, this is what she was gonna do. I think either side, at some point you're gonna get lied to. Left or right, Republican, Democrat, they're never gonna tell you the full truth. I think what shocks people is coming off of Trump's first term and now going into the second term, it's like, whoa, you did a full 180 and people weren't expecting it, right? Like, it's giving them whiplash, right? Like, their head is like, what? Like, this is not the man who ran in 2016 and who did these things and who said these things. This man came, promised a bunch of stuff, came in and threw away with it. You understand what I'm saying? So it's not that you were wrong for voting for him. The thing is that he came in and did not live up to what he said he would do prior on specific issues, right? Like, my biggest thing is, if you're going to highlight certain issues, and if those are going to be the issues that you press, at least stand 10 toes down in those issues, right? You can't say, this is my big three, this is what's most important to me, and then come in and just totally disregard what you said your big three were. That to me is unfair to the people who support you. And you have to, especially being Trump, you have to acknowledge that. I don't think Kamala would have did anything different. I think we still would have been in the same situation. I think certain things still would have changed. Like we still would have had like changes to different laws and like different enhancements and things like that. Of course, people come in and they push their own agenda, but I do think there would have been some lies and some games and some, oh, she promised us this, but she didn't do that. And well, that's what y'all wanted. I think, or I want to say that's what y'all wanted. It would be, we told you she wasn't qualified to do this. So I think you would have heard it either way it went. I don't believe it really would have mattered who was in the seat, because either way, whatever Kamala did, it would have been, I told you she wasn't qualified. I told you she wasn't qualified. I told you she shouldn't have the job. And then on the flip side, you have, well, that's what you wanted. That's what you wanted. That's what you got. Suck it up. That's what you voted for, So either way it goes, let's be honest, okay? Like, we were fucked either way. That's the bottom line. But it's just astonishing that just such a short time ago, we were discussing, going to war with Iran about nuclear weapons and the development and the construction of nuclear weapons, to then just go back and do the same thing. That is just that's crazy to me. That's really crazy to me. Like this one here, it says $400 million to accelerate the development, procurement, and integration of the warhead for the nuclear-armed sea-launched cruise missile. Why do we need that if we're supposed to be anti-nuclear and we don't want nuclear weapons and yada yada yada? I don't understand. But yes, I'm not gonna hold y'all up with this, but trust me, go to this chapter and you will see it is billions on billions on billions, baby. And I just don't understand. If you were so anti-war and all of these different things, all you did was literally enhance it. After reading this, I realized, oh, I'm in the wrong business. Like, I should have been in the business of the military and whatever this game is. Is it probably dangerous? For sure. Like, let's be real. But the money is here. Like, this is a super, super military-based country. But this is where the money is, okay? Now, up next, we go into tax relief. Not too many changes. I won't lie to you. There were some increases, but other than that, a lot of it was the same. A lot of it was the same. Like, that's why in these you don't see as much highlighting and things like that, because I was simply just doing check marks, because I had like the printed version here. I had the law or whatever act that it's changing. I had that on my computer, and I'm just going line by line and like, okay, that's different. But it wasn't too much that was different besides literally cleanup, like deleting this or adding that, so I won't stick to this too much because there weren't many changes in that. What I did want to get to right here, our last one, and we'll be up out of here, was the Medicaid, because I know everyone was like, you're no longer gonna have Medicaid. They're taking your Medicaid. No. What it is they tightening up. And I'm not mad about it, because again, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. And so this subchapter that they're editing is reducing fraud and improving the enrollment process. So basically, they're looking to weed out anybody receiving Medicaid in multiple states, anybody, I shouldn't say anybody, but dead people who are receiving benefits, dead people in multiple states receiving benefits. Like all of that is cleaning up. They're determining your eligibility. They're redetermining it. Like if you had it in one state, you moved to another state, never cut it off in this state, got it in this, like they're cleaning up the process. They're asking that states have a process in place by a certain deadline. Like that's all I really saw. I'm not going to lie to you. You know what I mean? Like a lot of this was stuff. Okay, we are back. Let me tell you. First of all, my camera, I got a new camera, okay? But the camera overheats. So it overheated. And as I learned is that, a lot of these cameras, they aren't like high heat, not high heat, but like you can't record really long and like a high capacity because I typically choose to record in 4K. I probably don't have to, but I choose to. So it's basically like, it's like an engine, right? Like it's going, it overheats. So that did happen. I said, okay, cool. Let it, cool off. I turned the AC on, although that does pretty much nothing, but it cools the temperature around the camera. Whatever. Listen, okay, I try to do my research on these things. Boom. Fix that. Sit down. As soon as I sit down and jump back in, get maybe 10 minutes in, camera died, which I will say is my fault because I'm so used to the other camera. It had a different on and off switch. So like this one, I forget and I always leave it on. Although I like close it down, screens black and everything like that, it is on. So I will take the blame for that one. I need to remember to like turn it off. So the camera is off. But with that being said, I was like, I could wait for it to charge and then jump back in. But baby, the show must go on because I need to get up out of here and do some things. And as much as I love y'all, I'm not finna sit here and wait an hour or two for that camera to charge up. Absolutely not. Next up, I'll try to find a fan that's quiet so that like if I am recording in 4K, hopefully keeping the camera pretty cool will help me record a longer time. Also, maybe not run my mouth as long. We'll try that as well. And getting an additional battery. So if one dies, pop another one in. But with that being said, the quality might be a little bit different now because we shooting straight off the iPhone, okay? Duh, we're going to keep this show going. So like I was saying, what has changed is they added this section under, reducing fraud or whatever. And so now they're trying to reduce the duplicate people that are signed up, right? So they're first trying to have states implement a process to regularly obtain address information for individuals enrolled in these plans. They're hoping that by providing, your social security and things like that, that it'll prevent individuals from simultaneously being enrolled under state plans of multiple states. And then if they are, because this language is also, the state must disenroll this individual from one state that, they do not reside in. They also spoke to how you would communicate that with the other state. So, okay, yeah. So it says the secretary shall establish a system, which means basically like the federal government shall establish a system to be utilized by the secretary and the states. So like if we're in Connecticut would use this system that they're going to come out with to prevent an individual from being simultaneously enrolled under state plans in different states. And this information shall be transmitted regarding whether an individual is enrolled or seeking to be enrolled under the state plan of such state and is enrolled in another state, right? So like if you're in New York and then you want to go to Philadelphia, both New York and Philadelphia should be able to, Pennsylvania should be able to go into this system that's developed by the secretary, go into this system and say, okay, is Jane Doe registered anywhere else? Because if Jane Doe is, she can't register here, and then we have to notify them that she's trying to register here, because now obviously they need to be in communication. Say, girl, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Is this fraudulent? Is somebody using your information? Why are you registering in two places? Well, if you're registering because you're moving, then you need to end it here and go get them there, so you're not double dipping. They don't want people to double dip, because what does that do? Drives up money, drives up your spending. So to me, that makes sense. Other than that, to be honest, no changes. No changes in the sense that it's going to be cutting benefits. This is all new language that's added into this section, but it's not cutting benefits. The process to obtain enrollee address information. So it's basically saying you're going to rely on these certain databases that we would consider reliable. So you have mail if you receive return mail, the National Change of Address database, a managed care entity, these different places where you would find and determine. Another thing they have is that they are going to be adding how do you transmit this information. Just honestly, more of the same stuff of like cutting out the fraud. They're making sure that, like I said, again, deceased people are not remaining enrolled, because again, we're shelling out money. States are shelling out money to people who are dead, right? So you might have a wife who knows that her husband has since passed, but is still receiving his Medicaid for whatever reason, or whatever she's getting, she's still receiving it because this person has been passed. So they want to do that. And it basically is a verification where they're going to quarterly verify that these people are still enrolled, right? And so that's that. And then they're going to unenroll people who they deem are deceased. They do also have a section in here where they're going to reinstate coverage if someone was unenrolled or disenrolled, as they put it, in error. So if they check this, the death master file, if they check that and they're like, yep, okay, this person is deceased, and then it turns out this person's coverage stopped and they indeed are not deceased, then they will be immediately re-enrolled under the state plan and retroactive to the date that they were disenrolled. So what that could mean is, okay, I'm on Medicaid. They, for some reason, right? Maybe it's, what's a really common name? Maybe it's Dave Smith, right? And Dave Smith in a county over died, or maybe two counties over died, and they confused you and they were like, it's not this Dave Smith, it was that Dave Smith, or maybe it was like a junior and a senior and whatever, right? What have you, whatever the situation is, they re-enroll you. Now you got these bills, your Medicaid got cut off in error. They'll retroactive it back, and that coverage will apply for the time where you were disenrolled, right? So cool. That is language that was added. So then again, just more language to ensuring that deceased providers do not remain enrolled. They're going to be screening against, again, that death master file. The next section says payment reduction related to certain erroneous excess payments under Medicaid. So now when I saw this, I'm like, okay, we're talking about payment reduction. Here's where it's going to hit them. Here's where it's going to get them. No. So they're saying that they'll stop payments, because this language was added, where insufficient information is available to confirm eligibility. So basically it's like, we're not going to be paying people who we haven't deemed as eligible for these benefits, right? Like, it's not going to start before, it's going to start after we confirm. Payments for items and services furnished to an individual who is not eligible for medical assistance under this state plan. Again, we're not just going to be paying for you and you aren't eligible. And then we have some more added language for the frequency of eligibility redeterminations for certain individuals. So It looks like every 6 months they're saying they're going to determine if people are eligible. So it's probably like, okay, you went, at the beginning of the year, they said no, but now it's been 6 months. Go back to see if you meet whatever the threshold is to be eligible. Again, I don't see anything crazy. What I could say is like maybe, they might like increase, some of the Medicaid or whatever, but I don't see anything where it's like gonna just shut your Medicaid off, They do have, if I'm not mistaken, I thought they had something in here regarding abortions, but y'all been reading so much, I can't even tell you. I'm not gonna lie to you. I've been reading so much. It might not been. Oh no, it is. Hold on. Let me go back. Right. Okay. Yeah. So it looks like they. Hold on. Let me go back. This is in real time because I had read it and then I was like, Yeah, so this one says no federal funds that are considered direct spending and provided carry out a state plan, blah, 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 blah. And it defines a prohibited entity as, and the one that I thought was so interesting was it said, a prohibited entity that provides abortions other than an abortion if the pregnancy is a result of an act of rape or incest, or in the case where a woman suffers from a physical disorder, physical injury, or physical illness, including a endangering physical condition caused by or arising from the pregnancy itself, that would, as a certified by a physician, place the physician in the danger of death unless an abortion is performed, blah, 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 right? So all these different things. So again, I read it and I just didn't really find at this point, okay, I have a few more sections to go, but I didn't find where it was killing us and we were about to lose our minds and everything was going to fall apart. I didn't find that. And so I say all that to say I have all my notes, but I just read it straight from the bill, okay? That's what I was just going to do anyway. That's why I highlighted and everything. But what I will say is when we get to a place where we let Instagram Reels, TikToks, YouTube Shorts, I don't know what they're called on Facebook, but when we let these clips and these headlines and these trigger words cause us to go into such a panic and go into such a fear mode for things that literally just aren't true. I always say it and I mean it when I say it. Do the work yourself. Do the research yourself because people are going to go out. I saw a clip of comedian Ricky Smiley being like, this is the end. The world is over. Y'all voted for Trump, so y'all, we might as well consider ourselves done and dead. And also, it was just like, sir, what are you talking about? Like, are you okay? Like, are you actually okay? Like, I know he's had, some traumatic incidents happen. Like, is your mind good? Like, what are you talking about? Because nothing he was saying was making sense. And he was referencing Joy Reid and all these things. And I'm like, I listen to people like Don Lemon and I listen to, honestly, not a lot, but Don has people on his sites. On his podcast, as well as like Mark Lamont Hill. I listen to a little bit more. I try to listen to the left, but the fear mongering gets so overwhelming because I'm like, are y'all reading this bill? Like, are you reading it? Are you going through it and highlighting and underlining and pulling up? Because you might open this and say, well, it says, striking such and such, such and such. And then you go and read it and it has no effect on nothing. It just is striking out some old irrelevant language or it's been changed 3 other times, and now it's striking out the last one and just keeping what it originally was. Like, you have to go out and read things. We can't be spreading a message without doing the work of reading something. If it's referencing a previous act, a previous bill or whatever, go and look up that one to then see what the changes are, because sometimes it's not really changes. A lot of this, what I read so far, I will say, was enhancements, was extending, right? A lot of it was ending in 2024 or 2025, and it was extending it to 2029. It was extending it to 2027. A lot of things said, through, I believe it was saying through like 2017 to 2024, but then the amendment was to extend it to change it to say, beginning in 2017. So now there's no end on whatever it was, so it's like, let's read first and let's come to our own decision. Let's come to our own opinion, because a lot of these people who are so, you know, revered and seen as like hard hitting journalists doing their work aren't reading. Like, let's just be honest, they aren't reading. They're going to their friend who wrote an article, who's, referring them to a friend who wrote an article, who's referring them to an expert who, probably skimmed through maybe a little bit of it. And then they're getting like, it's literally just opinions bouncing around to create one narrative to tell to the people. No one is sitting down and reading this. No one is going page for page to tell you what it says, basically on the important issues to you. If Medicaid is an important issue to you, pull up the bill and go to and do your, find your search and put in Medicaid in the bill and read the sections that reference Medicaid to figure out how it impacts you. Don't go and listen to AOC and just say, oh, Trump's bill is terrible and it's awful. And Joy Reid said this bill is terrible and it's going to set us back and we're going to slavery and nobody's going to have benefits. Go and read the bill yourself. That's all. Whenever there's something out and someone's saying it's awful, it's terrible, it's going to be the end of the world, go out and seek it yourself. That's all I got for you. I'm not going to hold you up too much longer because, child, I don't know what my phone going to do. My phone might be telling me I don't got no more storage. So I'm going to get out of here before I have another technical difficulty. And as per usual, thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you've been here this long, please leave me a comment. Let me know what's happening in your area that I should look into, that I should figure out, that I should do my research on. Let me know what's going on near you. I would love to get into it. Something about researching something is much more exciting to me, I will not lie, than just the regular news. I like to dig into something because once you get into that like rabbit hole, the places you'll end up. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Again, as I always say, if you want to drop your opinion in the comment section, please do so. Okay, share this with a friend, like, comment, subscribe, and all that good shit. But again, if you want to debate me, I don't give a fuck. You might as well debate your granny, okay? Because I just don't care. And until next time, bye.